All right, I'll head into the intros as we don't want to take any time away from our speakers today. I just like to welcome everyone to the 47th webinar presented by the Australasian chapter of the International Geosynthetics Society. This one is on the IGS Handbook, and we have three very distinguished speakers today to run us through a bit of the background to this publication. Before I start, just a bit of running you through a bit of info around the IGS and the Australasian chapter. Um, the IGS is a global society with 47 chapters and over 4,000 members, and a map of all the chapters is shown. If you want to find out more about the benefits of belonging to the Australasian chapter of the IGS, please go onto our website. You can find all that information there. And yeah, I'd like to start by introducing our three speakers today. First off is George Koerner, Director of the Geosynthetic Institute, and George is going to talk to us about how the Geosynthetics Handbook came together. I'm not going to run into everyone's full bios and histories, just again from not wanting to take time away from their presentations, but this would all be available on the recording. Next up would be Fady Abdelaal from the University of Queens, and he's going to be speaking to us about the final steps and editing of the handbook. And then last but certainly not least, Sam Allen, the current president of the IGS and president and director of TRI, is going to speak to us about why the handbook is important, how it fits into all of the other projects that the IGS is working on, and how to get a copy. As per usual, if you would like a CPD certificate for attending this event, please send us an email and we'll send that through to you. And then just from an ACigs point of view, just like to make everyone aware that we are running and educate the educators at the end of 2026, where we currently have an expression of interest out, and we are looking for sponsors and people to help us run this course, preferably with a venue. So again, please have a look on our website. That information is there. We are very lucky today to have this webinar being sponsored by McAfee, and they will get a chance to give a short presentation at the end of our three presentations and just before our Q&A session. And then just heads up, the next webinar will be by Professor Zornberg on 26th of February, looking at sustainability benefits of adopting geosynthetics in roadway design. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to George Koerner for the first part of the presentation.
I'm honored to be with you. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and it's always a pleasure. Thank you. The presentation is on the IGS Handbook, how it came together, what was the vision, and you have to know that the IGS underwrote this. I have to be very forthright with this. And thank you. It was this is noble work to get this out. The document wanted to be concise in an easy read format. It wanted to be generic to stay away from any particular manufacturer and apply to geosynthetics across the board. Comprehensive, but there is a disconnect between practice and design. This is not a design manual. This is supposed to be practical, and it can be consumed by the general public rather than just engineering professionals. So it's entry level, and it's nice and compact. This is a living document. It's a work in progress. You'll see many avenues where it can be expanded on, and it certainly will be in the future. Highlights versatility, cost effectiveness, and sustainability. I was great to see that Jorge will present on sustainability. This is a big emphasis of the document. The document also emphasizes the quality system approach to this. Good design, quality materials, accredited testing, certified installation, quality assurance, performance testing before commissioning the facility, and then operation and maintenance. People asked, what's the most important one? It's not the important one, it's the system. So you need to have the system. I must give a shout out to Sam Allen. This project would not have happened without his leadership. Sam wanted this and pushed it during his presidency of IGS, and I'm grateful for that. Fady is called out here in regard. Dr. Abdullah is noted for his work in review. This is not easy work. We uh, took the corrective criticism quite seriously, and both did yeoman's work in making this happen. My name's on the cover, but certainly they made it come to fruition. I owe a debt of gratitude to the author, the chapter authors. They did the heavy lifting here. With roads and pavements, it was Eli Coelho. Subsurface drainage and water storage is Barry Christopher. He's a very well-known consultant. Erosion and sediment control is Joel Sprague, who works at TRI's South Carolina facility and is just a noted expert in this area. Reinforced soil is Chris Lawson. He's from the Tenkata days in Malaysia. And Chris just did a fantastic effort on reinforced soil systems. Seepage control was Kent von Mauberge, and formerly of Naue. And he is counterpointed with Professor Kerry Rowe on environmental protection. Think of one as water, Kent's area, and then environmental protection is waste containment with Kerry Rowe. And then I was the cleanup hitter. I started it off and did the cleanup with support system. And forgive me, but let me go through each one of the chapters in a little bit more specifics. But I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge these gentlemen. And they worked very hard, and it was a pleasure working with them on the IGS handbook. The first chapter goes into the types of geosynthetics, textiles being the oldest, grids, punched and drawn, knit, and strap type grids, geo strips, and then geocells, a bunch of different varieties. Membranes have a plethora of different materials, and they're separated from different barrier materials in GCLs, bituminous geomembranes, and geosynthetic cementatious composite mats. So that group is the barriers. Geopipe, plastic pipe, is emphasized. Geomats, erosion controls and turf reinforcement systems. Geofoam, whether it be foam glass or styrene or urethane-based foams. Composites, sort of a potpourri of mixing these different materials. And geo others is sort of connections and appurtenances that couple these geosynthetics together. But this is the 14 of them that we identified. You could well imagine in the future that this could get quite large and grow significantly beyond here. Geosynthetics, polymers used in civil engineering applications are expanding at a great rate. As far as functions is concerned, this is expanded as well. Filtration, permeability, drainage, separation, barrier, reinforcement, stress relief, protection, stabilization, erosion control, insulation. Then the difference between absorption and adsorption, I think you can see by the diagram. And then the point counterpoint of resistance versus conductivity, they're reciprocals of one another. Appurtenances or connections is then on this as well. And it wouldn't take too high of a stretch to counterpoint the types of geosynthetics versus the different functions. And that's what we did in this particular table. I can see this expanding over time. and growing. It's geosynthetics has grown marketably over the last 35 years, 40 years, and I'm certain that it would grow in the future. The first chapter, or the second chapter, is Eli's chapter, and it's outlined here. He did a very nice design benefits of using geosynthetics in roadway applications. He then broke the roadway applications into preventing intermixing separation, road construction over soft soil, stabilization, reinforcement, unbound aggregate, moisture control, and then asphalt interlayers. He then broke into performance measurements of this, uh, going into traffic benefit ratio, base course reduction factors, layer coefficient ratio, and then modulus improvement. And this is where he interspersed the practice and design. Uh, would be remiss if he didn't talk about railroad applications, and that's what he did at the end. And it's a very nicely written chapter, and congratulations to him. I talked to him when we were in Atlanta last week, and he said he admitted freely he's proud of it, and he should be. It's very nicely done. The next is Drainage by Barry Christopher, and he's broken this down into advantages, cost considerations, and sustainability, basic design for all applications, and then went into structural drainage, land mass dewatering, and then underground detention systems, and then finally bioengineering. A bunch of different applications for this in roadways, dams, embankments, and certainly landfills. But it gives a big area, a broad brush approach to this, and serves the task group as well as had a nice review. Joel's section on erosion control and turf reinforcement mats is very far reaching. And it's really across the board with this application. He's talking about temporary as well as long-term applications, and also about canals as well as slopes. Goes into performance and quality, temporary versus long-term, and then structural synthetic turf, cellular geocells, anchored erosion control materials, geosynthetic cementatious materials, fabriform, and then geotextile tubes. But a very nice, big, broad brush of erosion control and turf reinforcement. I guess you're not supposed to pick favorites, but as editor, Chris Lawson, my hat's off to him. He just, we say in the States, knocked the ball out of the park. This is a beautifully written chapter with a lot of practical applications as well as designs. Chris talks about embankments over soft soils, slopes, retaining walls, and berms. Think of those as levees in the United States. It's referenced beautifully, great figures, and really is a nice intro to reinforcement. It's a pleasure working with Chris. He's always on time, and he's just a gentleman. I wish I was closer to him. It was a really honor to have him contribute a chapter. The next two chapters go hand in hand. Think of Kent von Mauberge's section dealing with water. Everything from ponds, reservoirs, canals, levees. He even goes into dams. But this is very nice in regards to seepage control as it applies to these different applications. Pardon me. He talks about design considerations, but then the most powerful section of his chapter is certainly the installation, quality control, and he's not afraid to call out mistakes that have been made in the past. So learn from other people's mistakes. This is practically done, and it's very good. It's written quite well, and congratulations are in order to Kent. I'll be in the Netherlands with them presenting this. The section by Professor Rowe, Kerry Rowe, is on environmental protection, considerate waste containment. Um, this chapter is written radically different than anything else. And I enjoyed Jonathan's review. He says, don't touch it, leave this thing alone. It is very nicely done by Professor Rowe. It emphasizes a lot of his work and his students' work at Queens, but is very nicely done in landfill, mining, and impoundments. This is impoundments containing waste. It is beautifully referenced and well written as many of his documents, and certainly counterpoints Kent's chapter quite nicely. The last chapter is just an overview of support systems. And like everything, it takes a village. It takes a bunch of communication between different entities to make these systems work. It talks about manufacturing, standardization, in both ASTM, ISO, CEN, and the different standardization organizations. It talks about specifications in depth, regulations in depth. It talks about society with the International Geosynthetics Society and the great work they're doing, particularly in education. The Geosynthetic Institute, accreditation, certification, and then all important links to many different areas. But that's the summation of the document. And as I spoke earlier, it is a living document and certainly should see changes over the years. I hope it's a good start, and it certainly was a pleasure working with folks in this regard. I'll stop sharing now and hand it off to Professor Abdullah.
Thanks, George. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here with the IGS members alongside George and Sam to talk about the handbook. I'll be focusing in my part on the IGS Education Committee and its role in the final stages and editing of the handbook. But first, who are we? The Education Committee is composed of members of the IGS Council. As you can see from this list, it brings together diverse backgrounds and strong technical expertise from both industry and academia. Our members also represent regions from all around the world, reflecting the truly global nature of the IGS. This international representation is essential to ensure a balanced perspective and to avoid bias toward any particular region, regulatory framework, or set of technical specifications. We aim to both promote and develop education on geosynthetics to help promote the use of geosynthetics. A very good example of that is our participation in the handbook, but also our current efforts in the professional development courses Sam will discuss in his part. Now, focusing on the handbook development process, the process began with content development by authors, as George mentioned. This was followed by a thorough review, technical review conducted by the 4 technical committees. Then the authors, together with George, addressed the review comments and revised the chapters accordingly. By about mid-March 2025, we had received the edited chapters along with the technical committee's comments, and at that stage, our role as the education committee began. We conducted an additional review that was concluded by GeoAsia 8 last June, and the complete package was sent to Sam, who managed the final round of revisions during June and July of 2025. The final content was submitted to the publisher. They did their magic, and the handbook was officially released during EuroGeo 8 in September 2025. While the handbook was being finalized and published, the Education Committee was also tasked with a second responsibility, developing a vision for future editions of the handbook. I want in the next few minutes, in the next few slides, to provide some details about the Education Committee's two tasks. So first, the review process, and as part of our efforts here, we evaluated the handbook based on three key criteria. First, the technical accuracy. This was a paramount criterion in our review. We built upon the extensive and the valuable work already carried out by the technical committees, carefully verifying that their comments and recommendations were thoroughly and appropriately addressed in the revised chapters. But beyond accuracy, we examined whether the content makes practical and logical sense. We considered whether the assumptions, recommendations, examples are realistic and balanced and appropriate for the global audience. We wanted to avoid any bias towards specific regions, regulations, or practices. Finally, we evaluated the handbook from the user's perspective. Is it clear? Is it practical? Does it provide guidance that engineers, practitioners, students can realistically apply? Our goal was to ensure that the handbook is not only technically strong, but also accessible and valuable in practice. To do that, each chapter was reviewed by two members of the Education Committee. The reviewers had access to the technical committee's feedback and evaluated the chapters based on the previously mentioned criteria. While some chapters were already in a good shape at this point, others required additional comments and revisions, and these were consolidated and forwarded to Sam, who coordinated the subsequent review and revision process. Now, moving on to the second task, the vision for the upcoming editions. And here I would like to share this vision with you. We started right after the handbook release by asking key questions: the when, the what, and the how. What is the best time to release the second edition? What will make the second edition strong and add substantial value beyond the first edition? How can we demonstrate the value to the IGS community and encourage them to upgrade? So for the interval for the upcoming edition, we anticipate that a new edition is needed when sales of the first edition simply plateau, or when significant industry updates in certain areas make that update necessary. While we haven't set up an exact timeline yet, we plan to gather our first round of feedback during the 13th ICG. Please come and join us in Montreal 7 months from now, which marks actually 1 year since the release of the handbook. We will conduct a survey among the IGS members to collect their overall feedback on the handbook, and the results of this survey will help us determine the ideal interval for the next edition, and whether that be in 3 or 5 years from now. Second, the types of updates we anticipate. We expect technical updates. This could include new chapters on emerging areas, updated case studies, and lessons learned from recent failures. The updates could involve quality enhancements, improvement to the diagrams, figures, and graphics throughout the handbook to make the content clearer and more accessible. We could also add additional resources. We envision adding design problems with solution, design charts, and Excel sheets for design would provide substantial practical value and strengthen the handbook. Finally, communicating the value of the second edition, we will be precise and transparent about what has changed. For example, the number of chapters, the figures that are added, case studies, so IGS members can clearly see these updates. We may also offer incentives for those who already own the first edition, such as discounted price for the second edition, among other possibilities. Well, that concludes my part. Now I'll hand it over to Sam. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Fady, and thank you, George. I too have to begin my presentation with some thank yous. As George said, it takes a village, and there were several very important events in the life of the International Geosynthetic Society that fostered the development. While I certainly pushed this idea and this idea of a handbook, it never would have happened without the existence of an IGS foundation. And they were very generous with their funds to provide this whole project with $50,000 US. Now, those dollars didn't pay anybody directly, but they gave essentially small honorariums to our contributing originating authors, and to a few others that participated in this. What George didn't tell you is that in his very busy life of world travel and his very busy life of GSI itself going through transitions, he had one Sam Allen come and ask for a ton of his time in the middle of all that. And he didn't reject me. He said yes. And for that, I will always remember, and I will always be grateful. Very, very special person we have in Dr. George Koerner. And then finally, thanks go out to what we call our premium corporate members within the IGS, which belly up to the financial bar of the IGS and just sort of change our budget on an annual basis. Some of those funds went to the magic that Fady talked about when you turn written Word documents and figures into a published document on its way to being printed in final form. So very important events that happened. Now, so why a handbook? Why do we need a handbook? Well, within the infrastructure industry, materials-based handbooks are essential tools of the practicing engineer. They give very, very critical guiding information, not only to the practitioner that's been around for a while with tables and charts and just facts, but also for new people coming into the industry. Most of these handbooks are on university bookshelves and in engineering curriculum resources. But there's never been a geosynthetics specific handbook. And that was a problem that the IGS solved. And so this was really a vision that was directed toward the chapters. The chapters are the loudspeakers of the IGS, if you will. So getting more members within their chapter, outreach from the chapter to the practitioner engineers in their regional and local communities. The handbook will also serve as a resource together with designing guidance documents and books for our IGS professional development short courses, which I'll reference in a while. And the Netherlands is having an event here very soon that Dr. Koerner will attend, where they're basing that whole event around the handbook. And so this enables chapters to increase their outreach efforts through having events built around the handbook. So very nice idea, and indeed that's what it was for. So how do I get a copy of the handbook? Well, if you go to the IGS website, you can go to this account, and if you log into your account, you can find a new page that will have a shop. And within that shop, you will find possibilities for purchase of the handbook. But let me tell you right away that all of you in Australia and New Zealand, you have a fantastic IGS chapter, and everybody there should join your chapter if they're not already a member and acquire this handbook through the chapter. This handbook is really made to be distributed through chapters. The lowest cost of the handbook is only available through IGS chapter orders. You can purchase it directly from the IGS, but we're going to charge you more money. So the way to get this is through the chapters. If anybody is asking that question, that's the answer. Get it through an IGS chapter. So what are we working on now? In addition to all the education committee responsibility that we've put on Fady and his committee, we are looking at translations. We've already been asked for translations, and we're looking at the best way to do that, how to manage that. Of course, young people are a target audience on behalf of almost all IGS members, and they don't read books. They get everything online. And so what about a digital version? We're considering that, although that's a very complex road that we have to navigate there. We're thinking about a handbook app that is digital in nature, maybe not the entire handbook, but certainly when the education committee comes out with the second draft, there may be some material within that second draft that lends itself very well to an app, an IGS handbook app that would be readily available to field people, contractors, engineers, anything that would serve the user. We are really after a practical, friendly, public awareness engineering tool that can be used. And the handbook itself reads that way, as George referenced. If you make it through, all the way through, you are left, I believe, with a very compelling reason to use geosynthetics. In almost every geosynthetic infrastructure project, the rationale, the economic, the sustainability benefits, the performance benefits of this very important construction material is compelling, and it should be used in today's infrastructure projects. So the IGS has a lot of education-related activities going on. Certainly, we're talking about the handbook tonight, but we've also had an environmental sustainability calculator that keeps growing in applications. This is a tool available through the IGS where you can go and compare different designs, different infrastructure designs to measure and quantify the benefit of the geosynthetic or the non-benefit of the geosynthetic. It's able to evaluate many more materials than just geosynthetics. We have a partner in offering that. The most recent development is the addition of environmental product declarations for geosynthetic products. We have a IGS benefit for manufacturers to publish those EPDs that they express their sustainability aspects of their products. And then, as Fady referenced, we are in the midst of trial ballooning some IGS professional development courses. We have the Educate the Educator program, which has been very successful, but that only touches some students. Many students don't get geosynthetics curriculum because there's no space in that curriculum, even for a 1-hour lecture. So what do? We're going to go to them in their professional lives, and we're going to provide this same kind of practical design information through a 3-day course that's application driven. And so there's 3 courses that are being born this year regarding roads and railways and that infrastructure. We're going to be talking about landfill design and issues, and we're also going to be talking about reinforced soil structures. Reinforced soil structures in Brazil, roads and railways, airfields in Romania, and landfills in South Africa. So very excited about that. We also have some student interest clubs and a new initiative called Educate the Regulators, where we're going to them rather than asking them to come to us and speaking about the utility and also how to make rules around geosynthetic use, which is the regulators do. So These projects look like this. This was at the beginning of my administration within the IGS. The sustainability calculator is done and growing. The handbook is now complete. These trial balloons for the professional courses are 2026. And along with that comes a certification. If you make it through the curriculum and you pass an exam, then you will get a certificate from the IGS. These professional development courses, as I referenced, are all over the world. There is this post-course exam, these trial balloon courses with feedback that'll go to the course instructors and Fady and his education committee, who's busy reviewing those, the slide decks and the content of those courses right now. The trial balloons will happen March through July of this year. And then once final, they'll be again presented to the chapters for use and chapter growth and outreach by the chapters to the practicing design engineer. And these are very excited about this. If we can't get a 1 hour curriculum in your 1 hour of geosynthetics curriculum in, what we can do sometimes is create an after school off hours geosynthetic interest club. And we have a couple of those now. The one here, California State University with Amir, Professor Amir, he is the #1. He'll always be the #1 course. I told the students there that. And they're meeting and talking about the utility of geosynthetics. He has corporate members come in and give addresses to the students. I gave an address on sustainability. These are student-led. There's usually a faculty sponsor, but they have speakers and field trips and workshops over pizza and refreshments, and a really nice idea. Here is another big class of students that went on a weekend workshop with their professors at the University, Technical University in Bucharest, gave an address to them online. They, again, field trips, exercises in the classroom. So we're touching students, we're touching professionals, and certainly through Educate the Educators, we're touching professors. And then finally, what I'll end up with here is just a reminder that every 4 years, the entire body of geosynthetics global professionals get together. And this very, very special opportunity will happen later this year in September in Montreal, Canada. This will be the 13th ICG. I keep hearing absolutely wonderful news about this. The most recent one was a gala dinner full of circus performers. There's also a very, very critical presentation from a speaker from the United Nations that is spearheading and promoting this whole global sustainability push. What are we doing well? What are we not doing so well? What do we need, right? And certainly the opportunity to share with the United Nations at the 13th ICG the benefits of geosynthetics. So very, very important. You will have a new IGS president presented to you at this very special conference, as well as a vice president, and the new council will take place as well. So very exciting, must be their event, and I encourage all of you to make your plans and plan to be with us in September of this year. And so with that, I will stop sharing. And
thanks, Sam, and thanks, George, and thanks, Fady. Really great rundown of where this originated, how it got created, how it got reviewed, and then how it fits in with where we're all planning to go. So I think we're just going to have a quick. We had a sponsor for this webinar, and Matteo from McAfee is going to give us a short presentation, and then there's some time for Q&A. After that, really encourage everyone, if they do have any questions about any of what you've heard today, to put those in the Q&A. So thanks, Matteo.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, this should be visible, right? Yeah, correct. Okay, so good morning and good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Matteo Matteolelli with the McAfee Australasia. Obviously, It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'll just take 5 minutes to introduce Macaferi and share a couple of updates. So Macaferi has been a corporate member of the International Geosynthetics Society, the IGS, for many years. And recently, in 2026, we also joined the local Australasian chapter, the ACigs. So obviously, as a member, we're proud to be part of this community, and we renew our commitment to support the responsible use, responsible and technical promotion of geosynthetics in civil infrastructure and environmental infrastructures. And as sponsor of today, fantastic webinar, so we appreciate the opportunity, obviously, to spend just a couple of minutes to introduce, as I said, Macaferi. Sorry. Yeah. So Macaferi is a global company. It's with origins back in Italy, founded actually more than 140 years ago, that started as a steel manufacturing business. So many will probably recognize Macaferi brand from Gaben baskets, Reno mattresses for retaining walls, and riverbend protection. And this is still part of what we do today. Probably not. What not many people know, from especially in this part of the world, is that over time Macaferi evolved significantly, and in the 90s and 2000, Macaferi expanded into geosynthetics with our own portfolio, developing, for example, high performance geogrids and soil reinforcement solutions. And today our portfolio is much broader than that. It includes, for example, drainage composites, erosion control systems, and also more advanced multifunctional geosynthetic composites. So these slides give you an idea what's our current global and local footprint. So as of today, we serve more than 130 countries and operate more than 20 manufacturing facilities globally. And pretty exciting for us, and for those who don't know, since the beginning of 2025, Macaferi has established a direct presence in Australia. So now we have a local company, Macaferi Australasia Private Limited, and we can now support the local market with in-country technical assistance, direct supplies from our Australian stock points, and we can serve projects across all the states. So obviously, as I said, very exciting for us. If you appreciate, if you want to reach out and chat to us. Our objective as a company coming into Australia is really try and bring fresh ideas, obviously proven international best practices, high quality solutions, high quality materials, and bring all this into the local market. About solutions, so as we all know, as has been mentioned before, geosynthetics can offer a number of important advantages, for example, in transportation infrastructure. They can provide more sustainable solution by reducing, for example, the need of imported materials, or improving speed of installation and environmental impact. So we know that a typical application, for example, in transportation infrastructure is using geosynthetics for load transfer platforms or buzzer reinforcement, basically when building embankments or structure over soft and compressible soils. And this type of solution, Macaferi is involved in delivering directly this type of solution and assistance in the local market. Another area of expertise of Macaferi, and also another important application of geosynthetics in civil infrastructure, is water drainage, or drainage in general. So as you may know, in many instances, traditional granular layers can be replaced with thin geocomposite drainage blankets. And these systems can be, of course, they're very simple to install, but most importantly, they can be designed to manage specific long-term load condition and long-term flow conditions. So this approach can help reduce material volumes and simplify construction and provide consistent drainage performance over time. So pretty important. Soil erosion was mentioned as part of also the handbook, is a significant issue in many infrastructure projects today. So it can degrade soil quality, affect water bodies, and also pose a geotechnical risk in many instances. So with high performance erosion control blankets, geosynthetics can basically provide an effective way to address those challenging, and most importantly, they can be designed for that function with sound engineering methods, and while also, of course, offering, in many instances, environmental and cost advantages over conventional solution. Last but not least, landfill and waste containment is another area where geosynthetics have delivered significant benefits, especially in Australia and New Zealand. So those countries, as we know, they're recognized globally, are very strong for the advanced approach to landfill barrier design. And Macquarie can and want to contribute to this sector as well by bringing again fresh ideas, alternative solution, alternative methods, and obviously high quality systems and materials. So we can, for example, provide technical support and materials for bottom linings and caps in the areas of drainage, protection and cushioning, and waterproofing and barrier. Last but not least, for what Macquarie can offer here in Australia, assistance on the use and selection of geosynthetics, preliminary conceptual solutions, manufacturing tailored products, typical drawings, of course, installation manuals, design data sheet. And I think very important, and I put here a QR code on the right-hand side, we have a very large database of free softwares that we have developed for specific applications involving geosynthetics, for example, soil erosion control, a drainage system, buzzer reinforcement. So if you want to, I invite you to check it out. So these are our contact details, and thank you so much for your attention. I'll leave it now to the QA session for the webinar. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Matteo. Yeah, we don't have any questions as yet, but I thought I'd start off with two comments. So when we get fresh grads who start work with us, inevitably they struggle to differentiate between a geotextile and a geomembrane, and that's just because the level of the level that this topic is covered at university. So I've got a box, and I sit down with them and I show them the difference and let them feel it and speak to them about where the various ones are used. And I really see the handbook as fitting in just after that, so they've had a first feel of what the materials look like, and then they can read about what they are, how they're used, and all the various ways that they can be used in their project. So I think it's a really good kind of first step for a young grad to go through that, and I would give it to them along with the local regs for, in my industry, waste containment, and they can read the two together. And that, I guess, brings me to my second one. And yeah, I do remember putting in some comments back to George that I don't think Kerry's chapter should be touched at all, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that if I wish I'd known earlier in my career that's been crystallized in Kerry's chapter. There is some real nuggets of wisdom in there that any designer, young or old, would find really useful and would prevent things maybe not going right on sites. So yeah, I guess that's my two comments. Really glad to be involved in the process through the TC barriers when we did a review of the chapters, and really great to see it out in the world, as it were. Right, we got one question here. Is the handbook available from the ANZ chapter website? Yes. So if you get in touch with ACigs, we've made a pre-order and we've got a whole bunch of those in. I don't know if Lisa can maybe give us an update as to how many of those are still available, because I think we did get a first order in, and I think we're pretty close to running out. So we've had a really good uptake from the ones that we've got.
Not exactly sure how many are left, but I do know that we are pretty close. If there's anything left, it's probably 1 or 2 books, and that's about it. Yeah.
So Scott, get in touch with through the ACigs website. Next question: If the handbook provides ready data regarding interface friction table between different types of geosynthetic liners, no, I can't remember it doing that. It will tell you to look at that. But I don't think it does. But there are other really good publications like the GRI report number 30, which I think is a good place to start. But if you really want to be sure, test the materials on site with that you're actually going to use. Don't use data from literature, especially for interface friction, very sparingly, and if possible, test. Is there a student discount? I wasn't sure if there is a student discount. Sam, maybe you can answer on that one.
The student discounts, that's a chapter decision, and so the chapters can make it's yours. It's really yours. It belongs to the chapters. So if you'd like to provide discounts to students, that's entirely appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the next question is, does the handbook contain calculation examples? Just from what I recall, no. But it does provide guidance in terms of what to think about when you are doing the calcs. And if you want good guidance on how to design with geosynthetics, including calculation examples, then I would refer you to Designing with Geosynthetics 6th edition, because that I think is still the go-to reference.
These are two questions regarding friction and calculations that lend themselves to this differentiation, right? Because the handbook was really always designed to be very much on a practical, almost like a compass within the geosynthetics application world, whereas geosynthetic design codes, the design by function is beautifully contained in the Designing with Geosynthetics book that will have new iterations, I understand, as well, but also very regionally and locally regulated in many environments. So to put it down in a book is beyond that is difficult sometimes. So yeah, even the design courses that the IGS is putting together have to be pretty generic in their design and not zero themselves in on something specific for a country or a region. So the handbook plays a very practical role.
And then just to throw that out there as well, the ISO 18228 series is now pretty much mostly published, and that contains designing for various functions of geosynthetics, and that again is a really good place if you're unsure about where to start and what the international standard is to have a look at those. Just a comment from Luke Adams that updated government regulations in his region in Australia now require designers to reflect on and acknowledge international state of knowledge in addition to local regs, and that having a published guidance handbook will make sure that it's pulled into those kinds of references, which I think is good, and I think it's been missing, not having that to be able to refer to. Well, I think that's it. I think there's not many more questions. I would just again like to thank all of our presenters, not only for their time today, but for their time through this process, which has felt long at times, and that such a excellent publication has been produced at the end of it. So yeah, thanks from all of us in the industry to you three. Thanks all. You all have a good day, evening, morning, and we'll see each other hopefully in Montreal.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Look forward to that.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.